G'day, Club 18 stars, and welcome back to the Legends series. I've spoken to a few people around the edges, and I've asked them, said, who do you want to see on the series? And a lot of times it comes up to this bloke. They say, tell me to get this bloke on. I want to hear his story. Because this bloke who we've got tonight, he was a legend of a player on the field, like super smart, great footballer, very passionate. But then off the field as well, he gave as much, if not more, and he really lit up the occasion. So he delivered a lot on and off the field, and that really, to all of us, epitomised what a true Club 18 legend was. So I'm going to get him straight on because the stories here, he loves telling a good story. The stories here are going to be immense. So welcome to the series, Terry Lucas.
Well, Deeks, thanks very much, mate. Great to be here for the Two Blues. And it's a pity I just kicked the kids out of the office so I could have some privacy, but I wish they had heard that. That might have been the nicest thing said about Dad in ages. In fact, let's make sure Janelle gets to watch that later.
Well, mate, this has been recorded for that very purpose. So you're in the office, but what sort of office are you in? Let's have a chat about that to start with.
Yes, well, I'm locked down in my man cave, which I'm very excited about getting the Two Blues down to, the night we had at Haldane Street 20 years ago. I think we're going to have a bigger one here. It's a two-storey warehouse in sort of factory area, Brayside, gated off. All my neighbours are, daytime workers, so sort of 5 o'clock we come alive, and we've got golf simulators and pool tables, table tennis, a couple of poles. I'm not sure what they'll get used for, but we can probably work that out in due course.
Is Janelle still going to watch this?
Bridges.
So Janelle's still going to watch this one, is she?
Yeah. I mean, we can edit certain things. I reckon I can hit pause.
Good start. And I can hear one of your boys obviously playing the simulator because every so often you hear a. Right, so
you hear a little whack. So Ivy and I just bought a simulator, and it just got installed a couple of days ago. So Josh being out there, I've got a little bit of a crook back at the minute, so I haven't had the joy of having too many hits. But he's out there having a good whack, and we've been lucky enough to get a place that you visited. We've got that course on simulator, so I can't actually say it too much, but you can work out between the lines. We're a little bit fortunate to have that on the simulator.
Jesus. And
so you sneak down at some stage and have a hit.
We're 3 minutes in. You're throwing a few things in there, but well done. So we'll might touch on that a bit later. So have you been watching the series? What have you seen the episode so far?
Yes, look, I learned a bit off a couple of guys I didn't know that were a bit before my time. Obviously, I look forward to some, the guys that I played with. You always want to hear their stories, and you just itch to get together. And I know the idea is post lockdown to get together, but when you see the faces, you miss them. I'm one of those guys that needs blokes that he's played footy with around him, so can't wait.
Yeah.
We'll have one here, that's for sure.
Oh, that sounds like the place to be, I would have thought. So because I want to talk about your time at Kew and Paran on the way through, but before you got to us, you had a bit of a career in your footy leading up to it. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Look, footy's a game I've loved. I mean, I've been coaching now for a dozen years with the kids. I'm president of Bowie Footy Club. And so, footy's in my blood. It's been since I was 7 years old, like me, but just loved the game, loved it more than anything. So, I suppose like most young blokes, I wanted to have a crack at the big time, but I never got past reserves for the Swannies and some games down at St Kilda 19s. And typical 5'11 and a half halfback flanker, good in your local side, but you get with 22 other gun players and you quickly find out you're not as good as you were. But yeah, I was lucky enough to go to Mazenod after that and playing, some flags down there with guys that are lifelong mates now, as some of you Two Blues boys are. I constantly say to guys that I coach, there's no mates like the mates you'll make in footy, So, 3 flags at Mazenod and, lots of games of footy. And then, obviously the change when I was 30 to come and play clubbies.
Well, you're 30. So that's something I've never known how actually old you were when you walked in the door. So
yeah,
you're still like a father figure to a lot of people.
Yeah, well, the receding hairline, and it happened pretty early. So I felt like a bit of a father figure too, I've got to tell you.
Well, and you read well
I
between the
learnt
lines
pretty
on that one
I
too.
learnt pretty early that I've got a lot of young misbehaving sons at Club 18. And then I
And
learnt very early that if you can't beat them, then you got to join them.
or lead them perhaps. And so you've made Mazenod's team of the century. Qualification 50 games for that. How many did you play?
Well, 47, but I think Mark Grady sort of found 3 games for me to get me on the nominations.
Yeah, good one.
Probably a little bit fortunate.
And you've told me a story in the past, and we will get to your Q and Param, but there's one story I loved in the past was in a grand final, was it in your Mazenod days, the opposition team thought they'd already won it at 3/4 time?
Yeah. So 3/4 time, playing arch rivals, and they were called Wattle Park. And, back then they were, a lot of them were on the gear and they liked to go the knuckle. 1988, it was my first year at Mazenod, and we'd beaten them 2 times during home and away, smashed them in the second semi. So we were raging favourites. And we ran out of our change rooms before the game, came through the banner, and they were waiting for us on the other side of the banner. So as soon as we came through the banner, and our supporters were screaming at us to warn us, but we ran through the banner, and it was just a full-on fist fight. And, we're lovers, not fighters, so they messed us up a little bit early, got us off guard, pelting down rain, 3/4 time. They were 18 points up in a game where they'd only kicked 5 goals. So 18 points felt like, insurmountable. We went to 3/4 time, and their supporters left their huddle, came over to our huddle, and started singing their team song at 3/4 time and then granny. And Greg Roberts, who's inspired me in my coaching, he was our coach, and he looked me in the eye because I was vice captain, and he looked the captain in the eye, and he said, "You guys are going to be stained by this forever unless you do something about it. Are you going to let these pigs," and he looked at him, he was an inspector of police, he was a mean man, great man though. He said, "You're going to live with these pigs singing this song." By the time he finished his address, mate, we were ready to kill people. And as it turned out, we kicked 4 goals, 1 to no score in the last quarter to win by 7 points. So it was one that you always remember. And, I suppose premierships do bond people, but that moment was unbelievable. Never forget it.
Wow, that there's a bit of chills up the spine sort of story. And what's that? 88. So what's that? 32 years ago.
Well, I think I've drawn on that story a couple of times, when I've been involved with 2 Blues, I've drawn on it at Bo Morris. I draw on it because, sometimes you're just not going as hard as you should, and then something spurs you on to find a bit more, and, it did. And it was a guy called KB Rogers hadn't had a kick all day, and KB, people thought his KB was because he was Kevin Bartlett, but he was 6'3", and it was Knob Breath. Now, I don't know how he got nicknamed Knob Breath, but he did. And KB had 1 kick for the game, and that was a 65-metre torp in the wet to put us in front.
Oh, okay.
Legendary status.
Torpedoes, mate. Always torpedoes. So let's hop into it now. So you've come down to Q in 98. Tell the crowd, tell the crew how you got there, and tell us about your first year.
So I'd left what was then Price Waterhouse before it was PwC not long before, and Ivy and CJ were at PW, and Ivy just told me about this culture. And I suppose in 97 I played Mazenod Clubbies, and you guys won the flag won the prelim, and then onto the flag the same day that we lost a prelim. Mm-hmm. And I got to watch your game, and I was watching Steve, and I just saw the camaraderie. So he was kind of at me over the time to come down and have some fun. Mazenod, all of my mates had retired, and just the opportunity to play with some other mates and have some fun. So that's how it started. I think it was 2 or 3 rounds into the season, and 12 o'clock start. And I think Steve said get there an hour before the game. And look, I always took footy pretty seriously, even Club 18 footy. So I think I rocked up to some address in Northcote, at around about 10:40. for a 12 o'clock game. At 11:15, I'm still in my car and I'm trying to get hold of Steve. I've clearly got the wrong ground, right? So I'm thinking, shit, first game, wrong. 11:30, still no one there. And I haven't got hold of Ivy. And about 11:35, the umpire rocks up. I said, mate, is this the Q versus whoever game? He goes, yeah. I said, where is everyone? He said, oh, they'll come pretty soon. All right. So I walk towards the change rooms. I think Ivac turns up, Mickey O'Day, and we're getting changed. I'm meeting a few of the guys and doing a warm-up. I'm looking around going, there's 11 players here. The game's starting in 5 minutes. 11. And then I think you, Mickey G, Ruben and about 7 others walk in talking about who you'd shagged the night before. That goes well. Well, that was back then. You would have. And
can I just interrupt for a sec? And right at that second, my wife never walks in on these. She knows I'm doing it. She walked in right then. Just
right. Okay. Well, that was 98. Let's get that on record. So, you're all rocking in saying that, and we're actually running down the race, and guys are, hurry out and get changed. So we go out. I think quarter time, we were 5 goals in front, and that was welcome to Club 18. It was a culture of boys having fun, but once the siren went, people got serious about their footy, and I just remember the post-match celebration and, me telling the story to you and others about how early I got, and I think you said back then, Tez, give yourself another 50 minutes sleep in. And I think that then turned from me, being early to rocking up in tracksuit pants with my gear already underneath and stripping and being ready to play. So that was game one.
Yeah. And my memory of your game one, or maybe game one early on, but I remember you coming out of the forward line and you're been a good footballer. You said Swans, Saints, Mazenod, good footy in your past, and you're running out ready to dish a handball off.
Yeah.
And you're looking around. Do you remember that moment?
I clearly remember it. It was actually game 2 against Monash. Out at Monash. And it was the first quarter and got the ball sort of on the wing, went to go one way to dish, no one there, went to go the other way to dish, no one there, twisting and turning, and then finally kick it and we get a goal. And you came up to me at quarter time and said, mate, that was really impressive, but no one's running past you for a handball here. And just get it on your boots, son, and get it in there. So, that was learning number 2. If I'm proud of anything, I reckon over the next 6 or 7 years, I did develop a few blokes to run past me because I wasn't quick, right? So I had to, handball was probably a bit more of my game. So I think Hollywood and Greeny and a few others used to flick off the half back and the wing and make me look a bit better than just flicking it around the corner. But I tell that story all the time. Love it.
we admired your efforts, but we were puffed because we'd obviously run 5 or 10 metres before that.
Yeah, exactly right. So that was game 1 and game 2. So I kind of knew the world I was in, and I think game 5 or 6, I got Johnny Beveridge, my best mate, down at the club. And you and I and Ruben and Bevo were going out that night. And in that game, Bevo hadn't played for a while. Bevo could play the game, but he put on weight. And, like all of us oldies, the hamstrings had dried up. And he got a free kick, I think, 40 metres out from goal in the mud heap out at Q. And he's gone back to slot it. I'm having a giggle because I knew he could only kick 20. And just as he's about to run in, Timmy Hanani's come in and ripped his pants down. And Bevo's just flicked off the shorts and decided to have a shot for goal on his undies. So that was game 6. And I'm sitting I'm thinking I made a major mistake not playing Club 18 a whole lot earlier because this is how footy's supposed to be. We trained pretty hard and we were pretty serious on the field and we were very competitive. So I love that. I didn't want to just play muck around footy. I wanted to, still go out and hunt the footy and hunt the player with the ball. But just amazing. That first year, crikey, I wanted to play 52 weeks. Just wanted to keep playing.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself as a player. Because I'm trying to picture you. When I try to look at you as an AFL player, who do you like? I don't know. I'm not sure it is. So tell the viewers about yourself as a player.
Well, hard to compare with an AFL player, but I was slow, right? I could read the play pretty well. I was always pretty good with my hands. I think a little bit unlike our young fellas today, even though we're trying to help them out a bit, is, I could kick it left and right foot almost equally as good and handball at left and right hand. That's the way I was brought up. So on that basis, it didn't matter which way you turned. And I thought that was an advantage, right? Because if someone thought you were going one way, I could equally go the other and do whatever. Whereas today, now they've all got to get on their strong side, and that's the way they play the game. But we were all brought up, you had to have a left foot and you had to have a left hand. And in the end, I'm probably a better left-hand handball than I am right-handed. So I think I played all my footy at ruck rover, changing half forward. But when I had a crack at the big league, it was half-back flank. I couldn't get off it. I wanted to actually tell them, because I played some under-19s footy, and there were some pretty good players that went on to play senior footy. Not Robert Harvey, it was a little bit before then, but there was guys like Mick Dwyer who played about 40 or 50 games, and John Peter Budge and those guys, and they were. I suppose the comparison is I thought I was a good footballer, and then you saw these guys being elite, and then you saw them 3 years later not being elite in the elite. They were, they were sort of B minus, C plus type players. So then you look at your A pluses and you think, wow, So, but yeah, I was probably your good old fashioned suburban footballer.
Yeah. But the comparison I'm going to give you is one of your Carlton favourites. It's not quite the guy over your shoulder, but it's a bit of it's sort of Diesel sort of style for anyone who's trying to picture that you come out and you've got a bit of time, you set play up and you follow up and get the right spots.
Yeah, look, a lot of people have made a comparison, and it's not being stupid, but I had no speed, so I had to use my wit and my hands. But you look at a guy like Diesel, and he had an awareness, a 360-degree awareness. I had awareness, but I think he just knew how the game was going to flow and exactly where to put it, and extreme confidence in delivering skills under pressure. It just shows you what you can be when you're prepared to work your ass off.
Yeah, he's a star. Diesels get around, is there?
He couldn't drink like me though after the game. I let him know that too.
Well, that's right. That's right. Everyone's got the strengths.
Very important.
So tell us about so you've touched on a couple of other memories already, but give us some other your favourite memories from your Q Paran days through the time.
Look, the 99 flag was a ripper just because we got done in 98, and I think you knew I was shitty in 98. Don't like losing grand finals at any level because they're hard to get into, and so I was rapt we were able to make amends in 99. I think one of my favourite stories has been told quite a few times is you, me and others did party pretty hard after that 99 flag. And, I had young kids. I think Matt was 2 and Sam were 1. So I think, the game being played on a Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, wife and work not too happy with me. To the point that when we had the footy trip that year, me and Brycey had been told by our wives that there was just no chance that we could go on it, and they were absolutely adamant because we'd just broken all the rules and then kept breaking them, and the straw that broke the camel's back had come. So I remember saying to my then wife, Ali, look, Brycey and I, boys go on the footy trip, we'll just catch up for a cup of coffee on the Saturday. And that's that. So Bryce and I catch up on the Saturday, grabbed a bit of gear and got in the car and drove to meet you guys at Bendigo for the coffee, didn't we? And then came back on the Monday. So that went down delightfully. Let you guys know we got. Honestly, I think you got the whole of Bendigo to applaud us as we drove in. And I remember Ali ringing me on the Saturday going, where are you? What time are you coming home? And I was, I was 15 and bourbon cokes in then. And I said, well, I'm not coming home as soon as you like, because Bryce and I are pissed and we're in Bendigo with the premiership team. So needless to say, I'm not married to her anymore. That could have been the start of the end. But it was a fabulous story because, when you're playing flags with guys that are younger than you, to miss the footy trip was Yeah, so I think we just made an executive decision that we weren't missing it, and we got down there and did it.
Yeah. So you've mentioned, I mean, you've done a great job. Like you've mentioned Brycey and Bevo in different times, but bringing a couple of your good mates down into the mix, I mean, that would have been a good experience too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, absolute thrill. Look, I knew very early on with you, Mick O'Day, Cougar, Greenie, Mickey G, guys that were younger than me, but I had a lot of good times around, and therefore you feel comfortable bringing your great mates in. Because you're all competitive, I knew we'd be successful, and therefore, you want your mates to maybe play a flag with you. Bevo played in a granny, unfortunately didn't get there, and Brycey in the flag. So it was that environment. The whole Q2 Blues environment was somewhere where you look forward to go to training. You couldn't wait to have the meal and a few drinks afterwards. And then you just couldn't wait for Saturday. And to be honest, when I coach footy, that's how I want kids to look at it. You should actually be super excited to go to training, then catch up with your mates afterwards, and then can't wait for Saturday and everything that Saturday and Saturday night bring, and that was the environment, to the point where, I was in an aged care business at the time, and I had 1,000 beds, 700 beds and 1,000 staff, and of that 1,000 staff, 980 of them were women. So we had a Christmas party that year, and the girls, all the women said, "Look, there's no boys at all in this whole organisation other than the owners. Terry, you any chance to bring a few of your mates along to this aged care Christmas party?" All right. I said, "Yep, absolutely." So I pulled you and Matty A and Mickey G. Can't think of who else. Certainly you three. Under the proviso, look, I can guarantee, you're all single at the time, guarantee you there are going to be lots of nurses there, which I didn't lie. The fact the average age of the average age of the nurses was about 63, and I will never forget your face when you walked in, because the older ducks, of course, they get to the Christmas party a lot earlier than the young ones. So you walk in, and there's about 40 women in there, and the youngest one was your grandmother's age, and they're trying to pull you blokes onto the dance floor.
That was frightening.
But
early in the night.
Can I just finish that story with, I was very proud that there was probably about 20 good-looking young women there, and you and Matty G, by memory, Mickey G, you and Matty G, Sam's best mate, you and Mickey G did very, very well, and Matty A, I'm not sure he'd be proud of the performance, but I think Borat would say, you did good, you, Matty A, not so good.
Anyway, you talked about edits before. That might that's pretty handy, I think, on that one. But it's no, but I do remember that night. That was in South Melbourne, wasn't it?
That was the old Crown Casino building, I think. The old building, where. Oh, actually, anyway. Somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, fun times.
Fun times. So your last official game, because you played a couple later, but your last official game was a famous day. It was Viking Day in 2001, and you shared that with Mick O'Day as a big send off for you, and quite appropriate. I mean, you're a legend of the club, so you got memories of that day?
Oh, well, I do, because my son Matt, who was 4, the Viking hat for him was, like boys and Vikings. I mean, how good's that? So he just saw Dad out in the Viking hat, and all these other guys in Viking, and he got so excited he wanted to be out there trying to run out in the field. I don't have a lot of memory of the game itself. I just have memories of running out in the Viking hat, looking at the opposition, looking at the umpires, everyone having a laugh, and just the great camaraderie of the group, But you play a game like that with Mick O'Day, who's an absolute legend, and it was a real thrill.
Absolutely.
Have you still got your Viking hat?
No. Ryan had them as part of a promo. So that was the Viking bar, which was a short-lived chocolate bar that was delivered. So he was working with a marketing company and promotions company, and they had him. So he got him and taken back.
Yeah.
Came in handy. We smashed him. We won by 50 points against the top of the table that day.
Yeah, I remember having a really good win. Not quite as good as the Victoria Park club rooms, against Zabs, where we got a nice little visitor. But that didn't happen, did it? All right,
didn't happen. And the funny thing is, I normally go through the.
I'm saying things that didn't happen, of course.
I didn't cover that with you. Anyway, so that never happened. But so let's get off field then. Your efforts are legendary. So I mean, as I said at the start, I mean, you probably touched on it a little bit here, but play a really good ringleader role in getting the team together and saying, all right, boys, we're off field, let's go and have some fun. So any stories? I mean, you've talked about the 99 footy trip, which is famous.
I think the famous one for me, I don't know whether he's forgiven me, but and you were certainly a big part in this, was our great mate Greenie, who I've always had an enormous amount of time and respect for, a wonderful footballer, wonderful human being, but a non-drinker at the time. So I think I spoke to you and a couple of others about, let's see if we can not, convince him to have one or two. And I think Mick O'Day and a few others had organised these shots called Tigers, and you drink them to the tune of, we're from Tigerland, and get the absolute raw going. And they weren't great drinks, but, once you hooked about 3 or 4 down, you were gone. So I must have got in Greenie's ear for about an hour, and he goes, no, I'm not doing it. And then I finally just chipped away at him. I like to always get my man. And so we got one in, and everyone started singing, and he had one. And then the rule was, if someone bought one and then came up and started singing the song to you, you had to do it again. So I think we got 6 or 7 or 8 maybe into Greenie, and he had some fun for a little while until alcohol hits you. And I don't think I was into good looks for a while, but it's a good funny story now. So I always like to be a little bit of a ringleader. I get blamed for a fair bit, and it's probably right. Yeah, I don't think wives like to hear I'm around with Terry or I'm out at Lukey's place. But, in fact, ask Matty A. In fact, Matty A lives in Beaumaris, and we had a little session one night. Just going to have a couple of beers, and I think it turned into about 20. So he hasn't been allowed to see me since. You
have 1,000 stories like that. But for Greenie, I think Greenie had never. So he'd have a few drinks. We wouldn't never push himself that hard. But it was his first time ever that he'd come across the fact that you could throw up on alcohol that night. Definitely.
Yep. Yeah, we got him. We got him an absolute beauty, and I did think that we should probably send him the Tigerland song just permanently, so just to haunt him in his night time. But so it was that was certainly one. I remember throwing the cake on Carey up at the footy trip at Byron Bay. And he warned me not to throw the cake. And I suppose when people warn you not to do it, it's almost an invitation to do it and see how quickly you can get away. And you had to really plan your exit before you did it. So I nailed him with the cake while he was asleep in bed at Byron Bay. And I don't know if you recall this, but he got seriously angry, Carey. Absolutely seriously angry. And I was his roommate, so I actually ended up, I don't know where I slept that night, but I certainly didn't sleep in the room. He was still angry the next day.
He loves his sleep, the big boy. He loves his sleep. Surprised he might have probably wanted the cake for himself.
Actually, speaking of Kerry, he loves his sleep. He did have a go at me once. He came to Augusta with us, and then we went to Vegas afterwards. And me and Marty Fitz, who we spent a few days at Vegas having a gamble and a drink and a bit of fun. And Carey actually wanted to go and check out all the scenes and stuff. And he did come back to the room and say, you guys, all you want to do in Vegas is gamble and drink, which quite surprising that he's able to assess what Vegas was all about. I raise that with him.
So there's another night where he wasn't coming out, but you put the pressure on him. Do you remember what you sent him in a text one time? 2 words. You remember what the 2 words were?
You're soft? No.
Define mateship.
Oh, define mateship. And we got him, didn't we?
He turned up.
Yeah. I have ways and means of. I think if you ever hear me say just have one, you've got to be scared because that doesn't quite work. And I do have ways and means of just sort of getting people around when they don't want to be there.
Well, you know,
or they do
soft spots, and that's the strength. There's soft spots, so you just direct your activities that way.
But look, Carey was he's a wonderful fella and a wonderful footballer. I mean, I think I did make a couple of comebacks to footy, and I remember 2003 and 04 and just resting down the forward line, and you just not often hear a full forward behind you as he's leading going ring-a-ding-ding, actually ring-a-ding-ding, here comes the king. So just get out of his way. You'll hear calls, hey, this is mine, or I've got it, fellas, not ring-a-ding-ding, here comes the king. I think of that forward line with Carey and then Cougar. And Cougar's pound for pound one of the most amazing footballers that I got to play with. And I reckon we'd lost a couple of games in one year when we decided to bring the tackle bag out to training. And I manned the tackle bag. And look, I was never, it'd be a lie to say you're never scared on the footy field. There'd be times where you're in awkward positions and you do fear copping something. But that training that night in the dark, Cougar hitting that tackle bag and me on the other side of it, I was actually genuinely shitting myself. He'd get to the end and I'd go, does anyone want to take this bag now? The next 3 or 4 guys would then go through and I go, shit, Cougar's going to do it one more time. And I got a tackle bag to protect me, and I had to really think, how am I going to brace myself when I thought, when this bastard hits packs, God, you don't want to be on the other side. He was pound for pound strong, wasn't he?
Oh, he's a very strong man.
Absolutely.
Very strong man.
And then he could go and play the bloody piano and do all that sort of stuff. So quite amazing.
Yeah, quite amazing. So give me some of the other characters that caught your attention on the way through.
I loved Mickey G. I loved him because he tried to get the best out of himself on the footy field. He had a genuine good soft side. He was obviously very good with the girls, and just always good to watch guys work when you're in a pub and you're sort of sitting there. And I had the benefit of being married, and a lot of you guys were single, so I could sort of sit there back and just watch you do your work.
Up the strings, yep.
And but he was just a genuine good man. I love playing. Ruben was one of my favourites. I know he didn't play with me for a long time, but he was a lovable character. He had a real good, fun side to him. In our first year, the Cora in the ruck was fantastic. Actually, there was a game I played in the ruck, and this is no bullshit, Deeks. Cora tapped it down to me, and we got 9 centre clearances in a row. Dave Maguire was, I think, coach.
Mm-hmm.
9 centre clearances where he tapped it, and wherever I went, he put it down my throat. He was quite amazing.
He was brilliant.
And Dave unbelievable. Just getting centre clearances. It's one you remember because centre clearances are hard to get, and to keep getting them was just a real thrill that day. And Maguire sent the runner out to drag me. Said, give him a rest. I said to the runner, you go back and tell Dave Maguire this is a once-off. Cora's just hitting me and I ain't going, no, I'm not going off the ground. And he was a character off the field. Mick O'Day was a ripper. He was the one who, I think because Mick was my age, he made me feel at home amongst a lot of young blokes. There was plenty. Hollywood was fantastic. Crikey, you can name Stores in later time with his corks and cork police and all that sort of stuff was thrilling. In fact, as I said to you before we even went on the TV, I was there. I played from 98 to 2004, probably mainly from 98 to 2001 in terms of lots of games. There's more stories in that 5 or 6 years than 30 years of footy beforehand. So it's quite exceptional, the sort of characters. Timmy Morn was just another ripping fella. Crikey, you could go on and on.
Yeah, that's right. So come back to the corks for me, because the corks were, if you got caught without your cork, it cost you $1 for every person that caught you. I think you had a different approach, didn't you, to what your fines were at the start of the year? Did you do something different?
Yeah, I wanted to prepay because is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I knew I was going to be stuffed. I think the first time, stores had organised, because I think a lot of you blokes, still then you were young and single. So, the word quickly went around, 11 o'clock at night visits and getting through windows and all that sort of shit coming into people's bedrooms. Where's your cork? And there'd be 30 blokes. So it's going to cost you $30. So I quickly worked out if I put up 200, 300 at the start of the season, I didn't have to carry one. But then, it just caught on. And, I remember one night, Ali, my wife then, saying, where are you going? It was 10:30. And, Ivy was waiting for me out the front, and we were joining you and others at 11 o'clock at night, like little children, trying to get into this house to go and knock. I think it was Nigel McPherson, who was a ripper, another, great fella, great footballer. To go in and say, where's your cork, to get the fine. But it was more about the story than the cork, And that was that was a great thing that stores, brought, and I think celebrating everyone's milestone games in different ways was great. I mean, I never, ever, ever had a beer before a game until playing with you guys. I mean, to have beers before a game, I mean, that's right down my alley now. I might sit there and go, this is actually perfect stuff. I used to get pretty nervous playing footy back at Mazenod, when I was trying to get somewhere. I'd get really worked up before a game. I said, shit, I wish someone actually had snuck me a quiet one back in the day to dull the nerves. But I've never looked forward to playing footy as much as I did with you guys. I just love going out there and having a crack.
So you've mentioned Steve Ivac a couple of times on the way through. You've got a strong relationship with Steve before, through, and after.
Yeah, Ivy and I are brothers. We're absolute fantastic mates, but I think our mateship sort of goes beyond that now. I mean, we've known each other since the day he joined Price Waterhouse as a 20-year-old. We've had a business together since 1998. We lived across the road from each other in Clifton Hill. He's godfather to Sam. I'm godfather to his twins. So, we've got a massive connection, and a massive, great friendship built on, it's not easy to keep strong friendship and business, but I would say Steve and I, our friendship and everything's probably stronger than ever before. Look, we don't see each other as regularly now. Just, we've all got other, he lives in Kew and I live in Beaumaris, but, always look forward to seeing him, and lockdown's been a little bit hard business-wise. We're very close. Yeah. In fact, speaking of Ivy, because Ivy could play the game, I don't think he was a natural footballer. He was a great tennis player, a really good golfer, but certainly could play footy with good skills. And he kicked an absolute ripper goal down at our Malvern ground.
Yeah.
This is one I remember. And he's absolutely pumped, running back to the centre, because I think he was playing on ball that day. He kicked the goal. And Mick O'Day's come up to me. I'll never forget this. Mick O'Day's gone, good goal, but no Mick O'Day. He's not. And yes, absolutely, Mick. I totally got it. And he was spot on too. It was a good goal from the boundary from Ivy, but geez, I saw Mickey O'Day kick some from spots where you just could not believe. He had a bit of Dacos about him, didn't he?
He did. He was much better on the boundary than he was straight in front of Mickey O'Day. He was unbelievable in the boundary. He was very good. So we might as well chuck in a plug, because you got a little, because you're talking about Steve Ivac as well, you got a little thing on your shirt. So a lot of blokes who watch this, because we get a fair few people watching this thing, love their golf, love to get in around it. So what's Elite mean?
So that's Steve and I, my business, Elite Sporting Tours. So our main thing had been taking people to Augusta. Obviously, we had you and your mum there, and we've had Carey there, and we had Pill there. We've had a lot of different. Nigel's been there, so CJ. So lots of different guys from Two Blues. Mainly it was Augusta, but what's happened because of this lockdown is we're going to change the way we do things. So the Masters will still be there when you're allowed to, but we're going to open up, Japan a lot more, New Zealand a lot more, and more specific trips where people want to play the best golf courses and access other events. and to access the best Australian courses as well. So that's where we're aiming to move, even to the point where we'll probably even have elite golf products. So if you wanted to get a really good driver, we'd probably be able to get a deal better than you get in any other shop and those sorts of things. But we don't want to be a retail shop. We just want to be known to the people that know us, and then if they ask us, then we can supply.
You want something done in golf, you can take care of it.
So, what's that?
If you want something done in golf, you can take care of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much a good summary. Yeah, so yeah, we've had a lot of fun. In fact, 98 we started Elite Sporting Tours, and 98 I went to Two Blues. So 1998 was pretty significant.
A year in your life. That's right.
It was.
So, I mean, on the way through, so we talked about the great passion on the field and your play. We talked about your off-field, fun and antics, but something that stands out for me on the way through with you is you're a teacher and you love to guide and let people through the next journey in their life, and you help guide people through. So what's the message you've got for people in and around football?
I think that the first message I give to anyone that I coach, right, and you can sum up their ability, is there's always a way to enjoy the game of footy, right? Now, without pissing your pocket, you're a naturally talented, good footballer, right? So you could play the game, and therefore, if I was trying to talk to you, and there was times where you were flying, so I just had to be on the end of whatever you were doing. And there was other times where you were such a perfectionist, you might sit there and go, mate, you can't get 9 kicks every quarter, every game. You'd love to, but, Pendlebury had 0 touches and Lockie Neal had 0 touches, and it's just working your way through it. So you try and tell the really good players just to keep on doing what they're doing. But I had a thrill, I reckon, the 2 or 3 games where I stood in as assistant coach or coach at Two Blues, getting players who were struggling to get a kick, or weren't naturally gifted, giving them roles to play, not making it so specific that, hey, you've got to chase him or do that. But, there was games where I said, well, all you have to do is run between the half-back flank and the half-forward. Just keep running up and down that. Or Scotty Hayward, you stay here on the half-forward line and lead. And he kicked 3 goals in a match. So I think I look at every footballer and think, if you're out here and pulled on the boots and want to train and have a go, then there's something for you to do out in this field. It might be tackle, it might be talk. I've got a rule, actually. Here's a good one. If anyone ever coaches, I call it my Andy Pasper rule. When I coached Bo Morris under 19s, we had 60 players. We had the Premier Division side, which played against Xavier and St Kevin's, and then we had our second team. And I referred to the whole 60 as our under 19s, right? So we trained together, and I said the only difference is on the weekend I picked 22 guys to play over here and 22 to play over here, and then whoever's left might play thirds footy or whatever. Or I said, but as long as you're prepared to train hard and have a crack, I'm prepared to play people, And Andy Pasper, I hope he doesn't ever watch this and get insulted, but he knows my Andy Pasper rule. He would have been playing number 59 out of 60, but he trained, he was infectious, he was first to the bar. When guys were sloppy at training, he'd say, come on, he'd call in the boys and everything else. And I'll never forget, we were playing against old Melburnians, and I announced the team at the pub, and I said, coming in for his first game, no one had any idea, not even Pasper. I said, Andy Pasper's got a game this week. And they've gone absolutely bananas. My next thing as a coach was, this can't now just be about him going out and, running around and rah-rah. We've got to get him a touch. Yeah. So we played him as a single sort of standout half forward, and he kicked 2 in the first quarter. He had his dad at the game in tears, right? Because Andy wasn't a talented footballer. And I just remember that game, and I remember that from him on, that any player at any time, if they're prepared to contribute to training or to the group or the camaraderie or the culture, then me as a coach is prepared to try and reward them with something they never thought they'd get. So, for anyone who's aspiring to coach, you should always try and get the best out of each individual player, and then collectively you'll get the team up. And then, for anyone who's playing, there's always a role for you, isn't there, really? So I try and, look, I've got different boys. Matt Lucas, you don't have to tell Matt Lucas to have a go. He's got white line fever, mad. When I coached him in the under 19s, I went through 3 runners because no one wanted to go and give Matt a message. No, you go and do it yourself, coach. Then you got Sammy Lucas, who footy didn't come to him, but so you find different ways for him to play, and you quickly work out that's how footy should be coached. I think coaches. I don't believe the modern coach comes out and says it's not his responsibility to motivate players. I find that amazing. I know you're a self-motivated player, but I'm sure motivated words to you from time to time would help you. So I think there's always room for that. And that's my serious bit.
No, that's right. No, that's good. But I think you touch on there. So from a coaching perspective, the bit you talk about with the bit player or the bloke who's trying his best and he lifts up to somewhere there and gets something out of it and has a memory, goes, that was just awesome, or someone becomes a half no good into something half reasonable, or even better again, that's the stuff you love as a coach. That's by far the best stuff you'll ever coach, I reckon.
Yeah, absolute thrill when that sort of stuff comes together, And I know myself personally when I played, if you're having a dirty day and you just can't get to where the ball is and the harder you try, so you got to sit there and use those examples and say it to kids now. Look, this is all you need to do. Stay in this position for a while and have an impact around here. Stop chasing the ball for the minute. Just find ways to adjust. So I was always pretty strategic with footy because, you just wanted to make sure everyone enjoyed it. And I'll never forget Cameron Moody playing the 99 granny and not getting a possession. A premiership medal is fun, but you need to have got a kick for it to, even if it's one kick or two kicks or three or a tackle, you need, So I always was very aware as a coach and a player to make sure players were feeling involved in the game, and you can see that. You can see guys, geez, he's struggling, so we just got to get him a kick, get him into it. Yeah. And if he gets into it, we're all going to be better for it.
Yeah, he stops thinking about getting that kick. So, let's come back to your career. So, what would you have done the same, Tex, and what would you, while we're in this sort of mindset, it's probably a good space. What would you have done the same? What would you have done different?
If we talked about overall footy, I think, I was a complete goody two-shoes as a kid. So, I didn't drink or smoke or do anything like that early. I never snuck out, never wagged a day of school, did all those things. And then I turned 18 and I found uni and I found the grog and I found all those things. And I think I went from very serious about footy to a time where footy came really naturally to me, but I didn't know how to keep the other stuff sort of, limited. And so I regret I have a regret in 1985 at St Kilda when they actually probably rated me that if I put my head down, I might have got somewhere, and I didn't put my head down. It was so. If you take that one regret out of it, and obviously that ends any chance of you playing. After that, every step of the way was fantastic. My best mates at Mazenod, great time there under a couple of great coaches, wonderful guys, and then to step out of that into Two Blues, just two very fond times. Loaded with final, I don't know if you know this, but I didn't play a senior season without a final. Never happened. Yeah. So from the age of 17 till I finished, I played in finals every year, and so that was a bit of a thrill. But if I had another regret at Two Blues, I just reckon I retired too early. I think I just started listening. Oh, look, you're getting a bit old and a bit slow, and your reflexes aren't great. But I wish I'd have kept playing.
That's right. I mean, you certainly would have been the worst player on the list by a long way, and you're still going to have fun. So that's the beauty.
And I'll be honest, I bought a pair of footy boots last year.
Did you?
I did. I went to 3 trainings. Our thirds at Beaumaris were short, and I was at that stage going to be the only president not to have pulled on a jumper for the Sharks, and I still am. So that irks me a little bit. So you'd probably watch that space in 2021 if we do get the Super Rules team off the ground, which I think we're a fair chance.
Have you got a mouth guard?
You know this. I've never worn a mouth guard in one game of footy.
Oh, of course. Yes.
No, not one junior game, not one senior game. So maybe I'll have to go and get one. But no, I found them because I had 13 broken noses between the age of 16 to 22, and my septum was twisted like that, so I could never breathe through my nose. So I found a mouth guard really difficult to breathe with, and so I decided not to play with one. I was pretty lucky to keep my teeth. Well, I think the lucky thing was the big nose actually got hit before the mouth, so it was kind of one or the other.
Yeah, well done.
I do want to tell one story, that 99 grand final that still shits me, and I want it on record, is I got the ball on the half-forward flank, and no bullshit, I was up against, and the story gets better with beers, but I reckon I was up against 3 opponents, got belted, whacked, went in again, got a smother, picked up the ball, dished out a ripper handball between 2 players to Brycey running through the wing to kick the goal. So all he had to do was catch it and kick the goal. And he is fucking fizzed back to the centre, whirling the fingers, and 15 players running to him, jumping. And I'm getting off the ground. 3 hard ball gets, smothers, tackles, smashed. And Bryce goes after the game, look, some of us have just got to finish it off and others have to do the grunt work. I want it on record, Bryce, you owe me one.
That's right. Well, there you go. There it is. And that's what this series does. It does little square offs and makes the ledger back to even. So is there anything else we've missed, Terry, on the way through?
No, mate. Honestly, wonderful time. Lots of great mates. Look forward at the Man Cave at the right time. Getting everyone here together. We can make as much noise and go for as long as we like. Unless, of course, you've all got bakeries and want to deliver some bread between now and lockdown, which, of course, is acceptable. But no, look, fantastic time. I was slightly nervous when I first joined. And boy, oh boy, was I very, very lucky to come out with a premiership. Great mates, lots of stories and lots of fun along the way. And I did get the benefit, I suppose, which I hadn't mentioned, but I got the benefit of my young fellas, and particularly Matt and Sam, coming to some games, and you blokes wrapping your arms around them. Certainly towards the end, the kids got really welcomed, and that's always a bit of a thrill as a dad as well.
No doubt.
But no, fantastic. Thanks for having me on, and really appreciated the chat. And very fond memories.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Probably
And
a
Matt's
couple of X-rated stories out.
If you look at the website and the premiership team photo from '99, Matt's actually in it, in your arms.
Is he?
Yeah. Okay. So if you look on the website,
actually, there was one going around the other day that I sent to Brycey. It was great. I posted it on a horse racing chat that me and Brycey are on. I posted the picture of me and Brycey, and the comment came back very quickly that Bryce didn't have a hair out of place. Did he play the whole game on the bench?
Oh, never had not through any game did that hair move.
No, I'll tell you what, I'm happy to have this on record. He did very nicely with the girls himself. If you're ever going to watch this, Anna Bryce, you know that too.
There's no
him and Mickey G would have been absolutely superb if we let him loose.
Yeah, imagine their timing coincided. That would have been
unbelievable.
It would have been bad for the
Very good, mate.
Very good. So, Tex, thanks very much for this. I mean, you were awesome to play footy with, like on field, as I said. Like, you brought the standard of our footy up because, as I said, you're running out, trying to dish handballs. We learnt pretty quick to get better around our footy, about how we played our footy. So that was thanks a fair bit to you. But then what you added then off the field to everyone else around the club, you're a bit of a ringleader. You brought everyone along the journey, father figure, made it a great place to play footy for the time you were there. So thanks very much, mate. You are a clubby legend.
Thanks, Deeks. Go the Two Blues.
Good on you, mate. Good on you, Club 18 boys. See you later.